Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the history of Halloween. So, have you ever wondered about the history of Halloween? I did some research and found some sources to help me and hopefully you, the listener, understand how Halloween became Halloween with its candy giving, dressing up as anything and anyone you want, going door to door trick or treating. Halloween was not always like this, and dressing up like clowns was not always the point to Halloween. In fact, it wasn't even called Halloween. I personally have always been attracted to the holiday, not because of the trick or treating or the dressing up. Actually, I don't even really care to dress up. What drew me to the holiday was the mystery surrounding Halloween and the question as to why people decorate their houses with scary decorations and figures. For me, Halloween always carried an energy that was dark, mysterious, and otherworldly. As a history grad student, I thought that I would use my fresh skills as a historian to dig for the origins of Halloween. Here are my findings. It begins roughly about 2,000 years ago in Europe on November 1st, which was considered New Year's to the Celts. These people back then were known as the Celts, a name given to them by the Greeks, who also called them barbarians, or, if I can pronounce this correctly, Keltoi. On November 1st, they celebrated what was known as Samhain, an ancient Celtic festival. It was to celebrate the end of summer and the beginning of the harvest season. The weather goes from warm to colder, which to the Celts symbolized death. They believed that there was a veil which separates the living from the departed, and on Samhain, that veil thins just enough to experience the ghosts and spirits of those who have passed away. Due to the thinning of the veil, it was easier to access the spirit realm from the living realm, which the Druids and Celts used to communicate with specific deities. During these rituals, it was part of their culture and spiritual practice to dress up in animal skin. Could this be where we got the idea to dress up in costume? A major shift takes place, and it involves the Roman Empire. Between the late 300s BC and 40s AD, the Roman Empire invaded the Celts, and the Celtic queen Boudica fought back by sparking a revolt against their enemies, who were trying to force the Celts to convert and become Romanized. Long story short, the Celts lost and eventually were defeated. Between 300 to 600 AC, there was a big migration taking place, which consisted of German tribes, Slavs, and Huns, creating a mixture of cultures. Like with all invasions in history, came mixture of cultures, languages, and religious practices. Gradually over time, that the Roman Empire ruled over Celtic territories, they brought their traditions with them. The combination of traditions begins the process of creating a union of the two cultures, forming mixed religious practices. The Romans did celebrate the dead in late October. However, it began with a festival called Feralia. Feralia was the last festival for the Romans to honor their good ancestors. The celebrations began February 13th and lasted for 3 days, Feralia being the last day. The 2 days before, that was known as Parentalia, where it was tradition to stay home and allow the dead to wander among the living. On Feralia, they placed offerings and decorated at the tomb site of their deceased loved one. Now, with their new friends, the Celts, the Romans began to adopt some of the traditions that the Celts practiced as well. During late October, there became a combination of festivals to celebrate both Feralia and Samhain. What came of this union of religious and spiritual practices was the celebration of Pomona, the goddess of fruits and trees. This celebration came at the same time as Feralia and Samhain. You know that game they used to play during Halloween where you have to put your arms behind your back and dive for apples in a bucket of water? That game actually originated with the Romans and Celts. The symbol for Pomona was an apple. Here comes the next transition. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the Christian tradition also adopted the mixed festivals for honoring the dead. In 609 AD, the establishment of All Saints' Day was created by then Pope Boniface. Now, before, the day to celebrate All Saints' Day was originally May 13th. However, the celebration was moved to November 1st, and then again in 1000 AD to November 2nd, and was renamed All Souls' Day, which some historians, like Jack Santino, who wrote the article Halloween in America, Contemporary Customs and Performances, who argued was an attempt by the church to replace Samhain and Christianize those kinds of high holidays. Later, All Saints' Day became known as All Hallows and moved to October 31st. And the day before became known as All Hallows' Eve, which then transitioned into Halloween. It was a common practice during the time of All Souls' Day for people to give food to the poor in exchange for prayer. However, this was just another attempt, according to some historians, by the church to remove the tradition of leaving food outside for spirits. This could be where the act of trick-or-treating originated. Eventually, Halloween became a day of tricks, scares, ghost stories, and watching the movie Halloween on AMC. The whole point of Samhain was lost, but, well, maybe not entirely. Today, people still celebrate Samhain and conduct rituals and honor the old ways, which I personally appreciate, as long as it doesn't require sacrificing real animals. But the combination of honoring the deceased through prayer and offerings is something I actually do, minus the whole sacrificing. There are many cultures today who have similar histories of honoring their loved ones at the end of October, such as the Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos, which dates back to the ancient Aztecs, who celebrated an entire month and not just one day. The rituals conducted alongside a deity, whose name I will not attempt to pronounce, but will spell it out for you right here. It consisted of skulls, altars, and other tools which correspond and symbolize death and other things to the Aztecs. It is still practiced today mainly in Mexico, where there are large celebrations honoring dead loved ones. People dress up as skeletons and walk the streets to celebrate. Again, in this culture, there are offerings made to the dead, alongside items which symbolize and honor the deceased. Similar traditions are practiced in New Orleans and other places of the world. On another note, there is also this relationship between magic and religion that surrounds Halloween, and that comes from the origins of Halloween. In society's eyes today, we see a mix of magic and religion. However, in the eyes of the Romans, Celts, the ancient Aztecs, Mayans, and even ancient Indian culture and heritage, these rituals of honoring the dead were not magic or myth. It was simply a time to honor dead family members or friends. I think it's important to acknowledge, or at least be aware of the fact, that a lot of what we do during the end of October and even during December for Christmas did not just come from one origin. It stems from multiple origins. We see this in history. For example, all of the major migrations and invades from one country to another, like the Spanish invading the Aztecs in the 16th century, resulted in a mix of heritage and cultures. Even before the 16th century, our ancestors traveled and settled in different parts of the world. I have heard someone mention to me years ago when talking about their altar for Day of the Dead, and their concern with placing a crystal and some sage on the altar. Their question to me was, does it make it witchcraft? And my answer was no. It makes it beautiful. I personally don't believe in witches. I just believe in people who want to honor their loved ones, or honor high holidays, or the lunar cycle by using a combination of old traditions. And in that, I find they are preserving the history of spirituality and religion. To me, as an open-minded historian, that's beautiful. What are your traditions when it comes to Samhain or Halloween? Do you find that what you do today is similar to the Celts' traditions? And have you added your own touch to those rituals? Share your love of Samhain or Halloween down in the comment area below. And remember, keep your comments respectful. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Every like and subscription helps to support my education and lets me know that you find my videos insightful. Thank you so much for watching or for listening. And until next time, keep loving history and stay curious. Happy Samhain!